This video is brought to you by True Tales of Buried Treasure, the largest collection of old treasure magazines in the West. On our website, you can search for individual treasure stories by region or by our original magazines themselves. To pay us a visit, please click on the link in the description. Enjoy.
In the radiant glow of midday, the line of pack mules appeared to pirouette amidst the heat waves as the smugglers' train trudged along the narrow canyon floor. This path, favored by Mexican pack outfits, allowed them to journey across the international border to trade at Tucson and other points free from the burden of duty payments. Little did the vaqueros know that their journey in July 1881 would etch the route with its future sinister name, Skeleton Canyon. This treacherous path winds through the Peloncillo Mountains, past the Devil's Kitchen, where a group of impatient men led by Curly Bill Brocious awaited the pack train, eager for the spoils. Their gang included the notorious Old Man Clanton and his sons, Ike and Billy, among others. From a lookout post atop these rocks, a watcher commands a clear view of the trail below, and it was here that the fate of the unsuspecting vaqueros would be sealed. Riding in front of the lead mule, the young Mexican in charge of the train anticipated his arrival in Tucson. Here his money would be exchanged for goods and commodities of many kinds, to be sold at a handsome profit to his countrymen below the border. The stay in Tucson would be a welcome rest after the tiring journey. In the old pueblo, one could refresh himself with much wine and enjoy the company of the gay señoritas in the cantinas. The sudden appearance of a rider on the lonely road in front of him startled the young patron. Curly Bill had climbed down from the rocks and sat on his horse, waiting for the pack train to come up to him. The Mexican smelled danger, but could see no one else as he quickly looked about. Nevertheless, he raised his hand and called loudly to his men, "Alto!" Curly Bill rode up to the leader in a completely casual manner. "Buenos dias," he greeted the young Mexican. "Muy caliente, sí." Because of his dark hair and eyes and his command of the Spanish language, Curly Bill Brocious had often been mistaken for a Mexican. This time proved no exception. After a pleasant conversation, the train leader was convinced that the stranger was just another vaquero, working on one of the nearby gringo ranches. Following a friendly adios, Curly Bill nudged his horse and rode slowly south, past the long line of mules. When he was beyond the last animal, he quickly whirled in the saddle, and a pistol appeared in his hand. 2 shots rang out in rapid succession. The shocked vaqueros of the train saw 2 of their number fall to the ground. Curly Bill's shots apparently were the signal for the men on the rocks to open fire. Rifles cracked and 2 more Mexican saddles were emptied. Caught in the utter confusion, the caravan stampeded. Wounded and screaming, the pack animals thundered in all directions. Their hooves trampled over the fallen while the chaos raged. Unseen amidst the turmoil, a young lad crept through the grass, hiding near the south side of the ambush site. Slowly inching his way along, he finally reached a bend in the trail. Leaping to his feet, he sprinted for the border, the sole survivor of the pack train's slaughter. The other riders were mercilessly cut down by the hidden assailants. The gunfire dwindled to sporadic shots as the wounded were dispatched. Some gang members swiftly set to unloading the heavy packs from the mules, while others rode off in pursuit of the escaped animals. The laden beasts were discovered grazing peacefully in the long grass of the San Simon Valley. Near the canyon's mouth lay the young leader, a dark bloodstain squarely between his shoulders. The slain Mexicans were left where they had fallen, their bleached bones remaining to give Skeleton Canyon its grim name. After herding the mules to Cave Creek, the packs were emptied, and $75,000 was divided among the gang. In the weeks that followed, the money flowed freely in the saloons of Charleston and Galeyville. A month hence, Jim Hughes galloped his frothing horse into Galeyville's bustling Main Street. Fresh from Sonora, where he had skillfully gleaned intelligence on the forthcoming activities of smuggler trains, Hughes, a half-breed with a penchant for befriending Mexicans, effortlessly extracted valuable information. He uncovered news of a heavily laden train set to depart for Tucson from Sonora. In a local saloon, Hughes encountered Ike, Billy Clanton, and Milt Hicks, They disclosed that Curly Bill was carousing in Charleston and would likely be absent for days. "This cannot wait," declared Hughes. "Another pack outfit is due tomorrow. We must seize it without Curly. Naturally, we'll ensure he receives a full share to keep him content." The group recruited for the second ambush included Hughes, the two Clantons, Hicks, Jack McKenzie, Zwing Hunt, and Billy Grounds. Unseen rifles halted the pack train a mere half-mile from the previous ambush, causing 3 Mexican riders to tumble from their mounts. The remaining vaqueros hastily retreated to the safety of the border. Amid the chaos, a chance shot struck Jim Hughes in the shoulder, felling him. The panicked mules fled the canyon, spilling their contents across the valley. Laden with silver coins on one side and an equal weight of gold bars on the other, the loot surpassed the bandits' expectations. The silver coins were estimated at $90,000, while the gold bars were projected to fetch $39,000. Recognizing the impracticality of transporting the treasure on their steeds, the gang resolved to conceal it in the canyon, intending to retrieve it later with a team and wagon. They buried the loot near the canyon's mouth, beneath 3 oak trees, concealing their ill-gotten gains. Jim Hughes's injury turned out to be minor, and after a few days, he and some companions returned to the location, accompanied by a hired Mexican driver with a team and wagon. The treasure was loaded into the wagon and transported to Davis Mountain. There, it was reburied in a pit rumored to have already held much loot previously acquired by Billy Grounds and Zwing Hunt during a previous foray into Mexico. In exchange for his services, the Mexican teamster received a fatal gunshot to the head. For years, the fate of the loot from Skeleton Canyon has been a subject of speculation. Many believe it still lies buried beneath the 3 oaks. What is certain is that the remains of 19 men and numerous mules were left to decay under the Arizona sun. It is widely known that cowboys working on San Simon ranches have discovered old silver coins scattered across the valley. Bill Sanders, a rancher, reported that his brother-in-law, Henry Smith, unearthed 2 of these coins near the old Ross Sloan Ranch. There are those who are convinced that the canyon is haunted. Cowboys have recounted witnessing enigmatic lights at the ambush spot. Others allege hearing cries and screams emanating from the area. It is also asserted that misty, luminous figures have been spotted at night near Devil's Kitchen. Is the treasure still concealed in the shadowy glen of Skeleton Canyon? Are the reported phenomena the echoes of souls who still protect the gold that cost them their lives? Or could such apparitions be more rationally explained, such as the cries of wildcats or marsh gas that forms in the swampy region adjacent to the grove? A short time after the second pack train was ambushed, Zwing Hunt and Billy Grounds were involved in the famous Stockton Ranch fight, in which Grounds was killed and Hunt was seriously wounded. Later, Hugh Hunt reported that Zwing Hunt had been killed by Indians. His body was identified by Billy Breckenridge, deputy sheriff under John Behan, and also by others who had known him. Zwing Hunt was buried under a juniper tree in a lonely Arizona canyon. His name is cut in the bark of the tree. With the deaths of Grounds and Hunt, the story of the treasure of Skeleton Canyon becomes even more mysterious and involved. Soon after the supposed death of Zwing Hunt, his uncle reported having seen him in San Antonio, Texas. The uncle claimed that Hunt had survived his wounds and had journeyed to his uncle's ranch. According to the report, Zwing lived but a short time after his arrival at the ranch, dying there of the old injury. Before he died, Zwing Hunt was reported to have related a story that was soon to become legend. According to the uncle, Hunt had told him that he and Grounds had raided the town of Matamoros in Mexico. They had taken much loot, including a box of diamonds and 2 solid gold statues stolen from the cathedral. After crossing the Rio Grande, Hunt said, some of the loot was disposed of and the rest cached in the Davis Mountain treasure pit. Hunt's uncle later produced a map, which he claimed his nephew had drawn just before his death. The uncle also claimed to have been given verbal instructions by the dying outlaw as to the whereabouts of the buried treasures. We played cards in a cave at Davis Mountain, Hunt was reported to have said. From there, we could see into New Mexico. Detailed on the map were relative locations of all points needed in tracing the treasure pit. These points included the burned wagon, certain trails and a rock on which 2 crosses were carved, as well as the treasure site itself. Armed with this map, the old man felt that he would have no trouble in finding the buried loot. He had all the details except one. Hunt had failed to tell him the way to Davis Mountain. The name and location of the mountain were strange even to lifelong residents of Arizona. The map eventually passed into the hands of Virgil Boucher, who actually was Bill Ground's brother. Boucher hunted more than 30 years for the elusive wealth, making many expeditions into the Arizona mountains. He searched from Skeleton Canyon to the Peloncillos and from the Chiricahuas to the Guadalupes. His faith in Hunt's map was unshaken, even after every effort to locate the money proved fruitless. Virgil Boucher died around 1924, still believing in the mysterious legend of outlaw gold. Bill Sanders, an early pioneer in the Turkey Creek area, searched many years for the buried loot, but failed to locate a trace of it. Sanders' son, Will, still receives letters of inquiry from professional treasure hunters concerning his father's findings in the search. In general, the whole story is viewed with skepticism by most Arizonans. In his book, Tombstone, Walter Noble Burns tells of an old man who lived in paradise that claimed to have been acquainted with the men who committed the actual crime. This man stated that only 6 men were involved, and that Hunt and Grounds were not among them. He also claimed that one of the bandits told him that only $4,000 was taken at Skeleton Canyon, and that most of this was in dobe dollars. A few bars of gold were said to have been sold, and the money spent in the bars of Charleston and Tombstone. To this day, the mystery remains. Did Zwing Hunt really die in Arizona, thus leaving the story of the map and the buried treasure a figment of the uncle's imagination? Did he actually survive long enough to draw the map, as sworn by the old man? The one known fact is that the legend still lives on. Every year, the canyons and mountains are searched by treasure hunters. The cache, if it exists, has defied all efforts to find it during the almost 90 years since the massacre at Skeleton Canyon. The search for the treasure continues, an integral part of the allure of treasure hunting. The longing to believe in the existence of the cache persists, and perhaps one day, a fortunate seeker will chance upon a wealth beyond their wildest dreams, the concealed loot from Skeleton Canyon. Perhaps it could be you. The first step in your quest is to locate Davis Mountain. However, the existence and whereabouts of Davis Mountain remain as elusive as the treasure itself. For years, the tale of the Skeleton Canyon massacre has captivated my imagination. As a history enthusiast and amateur prospector, I acknowledge that I could never aspire to discover the grand treasure that dedicated hunters have failed to find after investing years in the pursuit. In the past, I have found satisfaction in unearthing small treasures with little or no monetary value, such as ammo cases, old spurs, and military buttons, all associated with historical events of the country. The thrill of finding these items has always made it worthwhile for me. The time arrived when my wife, Charlotte, and I resolved to try our luck at Skeleton Canyon. The idea of exploring the old murder site for a few days stirred excitement within us. Packed with supplies and metal detectors, we embarked on our journey to Arizona, with Tombstone as our destination. We had spent numerous vacations in this historic town and had forged many meaningful friendships there. Upon our arrival in Tombstone, we encountered Wayne Winters, the editor of the Tombstone Epitaph, Arizona's oldest continuously published newspaper. After sharing our plans with him, Wayne recommended that we get in touch with Jack Hendrickson, a local businessman and former president of the Chamber of Commerce. Jack, an old friend and a trusted source of historical wisdom, has always been our go-to advisor in matters concerning history. Encountering Hendrickson outside his Lucky Cuss establishment, with his parrot Doc, engaged in a lively conversation, was quite the spectacle. Despite his desire to join us in Skeleton Canyon, business commitments held him back. Nonetheless, he kindly provided us with a map of the area. We then sought the company of Everett Brownsley, the former city marshal of Tombstone, and his wife Millie, who graciously agreed to accompany us to the massacre site. Our journey led us through Apache to the old Ross Sloan spread at the mouth of Skeleton Canyon. The eerie remnants of the past, including bleached steer bones and the bawling of grazing cattle, surrounded us. In our quest for relics, we combed the area with metal detectors. Our perseverance paid off when we unearthed an old Mexican coin dating back to 1864, followed by another from 1878. These discoveries felt like a tangible link to the legend of Skeleton Canyon. Near the top of the knoll, Everett's detector fairly screamed. The big marshal was so excited that he almost jumped out of his well-worn boots. Reaching down, he picked up a blackened coin and a rifle cartridge case. "Too bad these things can't talk," he mused. "They sure could tell us some stories." The old case was badly flattened and corroded, but still a worthy addition to my home museum. The Mexican coin was dated 1875. For the next 2 hours, we scoured the creek edge, but to no avail. The sun was setting, so we decided to try one last sweep before returning to town. Just as we were about to give up, Everett's detector buzzed again. 4 inches under the surface was still another coin, dated 1880. The marshal's face lighted up like that of a child with a new toy. His elation was not due to the coin's value, but to its historical significance. With darkness falling, we reluctantly agreed to leave the canyon. As we drove away, the lights of the truck swept over the whitened bones of the dead steer we had sighted earlier in the day. The bones were not those of a Mexican mule, nor of a long-dead smuggler, but their presence served as a reminder of the gruesome event that had occurred here almost 90 years before. We have often wished that we could have spent the night in Skeleton Canyon. Perhaps then we too might have heard the cry of a lion, or have seen dim shapes moving silently in the old grove under Devil's Kitchen. Would these have been only animals? Is it possible that the place is really haunted by the restless spirits of Mexican caravans, still seeking to guard the treasure which cost the lives of so many?
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to read the original article or purchase the magazine from which it was taken, please check out our website, truetalesofburiedtreasure.com.